Hello, Christopher here, and welcome back to the Patriot Report. When the Founding Fathers drafted the Bill of Rights, they weren't just listing a few important liberties, they were creating a framework to protect the natural rights of the people from government overreach. But they also understood a dangerous risk: if they listed certain rights and not others, someone might later argue that only the written rights mattered, and that the people had no other freedoms beyond what was explicitly spelled out. To prevent that kind of narrow interpretation, they gave us the Ninth Amendment. It's short, it's often misunderstood, but it's one of the most powerful statements about the true source of liberty in the Constitution. Here's what it says. The enumeration in the Constitution, of certain rights, shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Let's unpack what that means, and why it still matters so much in a constitutional republic. What does the Ninth Amendment mean? Put simply, the Ninth Amendment says this: just because a right isn't listed in the Constitution doesn't mean it doesn't exist. The founders were deeply concerned that by writing down some rights, like freedom of speech, religion, or due process, future generations might assume those were the only rights people had. The Ninth Amendment was their way of saying, no, these rights are just a few examples. The people retain many more. It's a safeguard against what's called enumeration tyranny, the idea that the government can do anything not specifically forbidden, and the people can only do what's specifically allowed. The Ninth Amendment flips that idea on its head: the people have all their natural rights, and the government must justify any restrictions on them, not the other way around. Why was the Ninth Amendment included? During the debates over ratifying the Constitution, some of the Anti-Federalists feared that creating a Bill of Rights would actually backfire. They argued, if we list some rights, won't that make people think those are the only rights we have? James Madison, the principal author of the Bill of Rights, agreed that this was a serious concern. That's why he included the Ninth Amendment, to protect all the rights not written down. These could include rights like the right to travel freely, the right to make personal decisions about one's body and family, the right to educate one's children in the manner one chooses, the right to privacy, association, and personal autonomy. Some of these rights would later become the focus of major Supreme Court decisions, even though they don't appear word for word in the Constitution. Why is the Ninth Amendment important in a constitutional republic? In a constitutional republic, the government exists to protect the rights of the people, not to grant them. The Ninth Amendment affirms that rights come from nature, reason, or God, not from the state. This is a radical idea in world history. In monarchies or authoritarian systems, the king or government gives you your rights, and can take them away just as easily. But the Ninth Amendment reflects the American understanding: our rights are inherent, and the government is limited. It also serves as a warning: the Constitution does not list all our freedoms. So if a right isn't written down, that doesn't mean the government can ignore it or suppress it. The burden is on the government to respect liberty, not on the people to prove they have it. Real-world impact and legal controversy. Despite its sweeping language, the Ninth Amendment is rarely cited in court decisions. That's largely because it doesn't specify particular rights, it just says they exist. However, it has played a background role in many significant debates over enumerated rights, rights that are not explicitly written in the Constitution but are still considered fundamental. Examples include the right to privacy, recognized in cases like Griswold v. Connecticut, 1965, which struck down bans on birth control for married couples. The right to marital and family decisions, bodily autonomy, and travel, which courts have upheld as fundamental, even though none of these appear word for word in the Constitution. In these cases, the Ninth Amendment supports the idea that the people's liberty is broader than any written list. Still, courts are often cautious. Because the Ninth Amendment is open-ended, some judges worry it could be used to create unlimited rights from thin air. That tension, between protecting liberty and restraining judicial activism, is an ongoing debate in American constitutional law. The spirit of the Ninth Amendment. Even if it's rarely quoted in court, the Ninth Amendment carries deep philosophical weight. It reminds us that liberty is the default, and government power is the exception. It affirms that the people come first, and the government must always approach with humility and restraint. And it serves as a constitutional warning sign against tyranny, because if we ever accept that we only have the rights listed in writing, we've already lost many of the freedoms the founders fought to protect. In closing, the Ninth Amendment is short, but its message is profound. We are freer than our government is powerful. It tells us that the Bill of Rights is not a complete list, but a floor, not a ceiling, for our freedoms. It reinforces the idea that we, the people, retain ultimate authority, and our liberty extends beyond what any document can fully describe. In a constitutional republic, that idea is essential. It means the government is not the source of our rights, it is bound to protect them. And when we defend the Ninth Amendment, we defend the broader truth that freedom belongs to the people, not to parchment, and not to power. Thanks for listening. I'm Christopher, and this has been the Patriot Report. Stay informed, stay free,